And Jesus and his disciples left the synagogue. They entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now, Simon's mother in law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still dark, he got up and went out to the desert place, and he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go to the neighboring town so that I may proclaim the message there also. For that is what I came to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in the synagogues and casting out demons. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Please be seated. What am I doing here? Perhaps that was a thought that Peter's mother-in-law was thinking to herself after she was healed by Jesus. And of course, Jesus was just doing what Jesus does. He heals, he always takes care of people, and he's always available to do wonderful things. But there's something interesting about this story because after the healing, as we read, he raised her up and she was healed. She went and began to serve him. And immediately the story says to me, is that all? Is that what she was all about? She was raised up to be able to serve the people and to take care of them. Who was there that she was had to take care of? And is that all that she was aspiring to? Many times when you kind of come back to yourself, especially if you've been on the brink of something, maybe you're looking for something deeper in your life. Maybe you're looking for something more comprehensive, something new, something challenging. But to come back and to be able to just serve the people in the house, is really that all that she was worth? Is that all that she was made for? Well, what if I were to suggest that maybe that is exactly what she wanted to do, that maybe that is exactly what she always wanted to do, and being brought to serve the people in the house and to being a good mother, and especially a good mother-in-law, that was the wonderful thing that she wanted to do. And so the question here is, so what is it when we get called back to ourselves? Have you ever been called back to yourself from a brink of being somewhere where either you were lost, either you were broken, perhaps you were confused? I've had situations that in my life where I was in a particular place and I was staying with people and I was talking and I was saying to myself, what am I doing here? This is not who I am. This is not the people that I should be with. Perhaps in your younger years, you were saying, as you were involved in a relationship, what am I doing here? What am I doing with this woman? Or what am I doing with this guy? This is like so wrong. I shouldn't be here at all. Or maybe you find yourself in some job or something that you don't feel quite the fit. It doesn't seem to be who you are. And you say, what am I doing here? You see, the question is that when Jesus brings the mother-in-law of Peter back, he's bringing her back to herself. He's bringing her back to who she originally was and the person that she was created to be. The gospel is not a gospel in which Jesus teaches us to be something that we're not. Jesus certainly was a person that God had asked him to do. And so the point that the woman was now made to be who she was really wanting to be is perhaps a resurrection story, if you want to look at it. He raised her up to be herself. What if that resurrection that we talk about in the end of life may be something that we can experience right here, right now, by simply waking up to who we are, waking up to where we are, with whom we are. You know, the biggest challenge that we have in our lives is that we live on the periphery of ourselves. We live perhaps somebody else's life. We live somebody else's dream. We live somebody else's expectation. We live somebody else's demand. And the biggest gift that the gospel is offering us today through Jesus is that he brings us back into our skin, into our feet, into our body. That's the gospel challenge for us, especially today, because it's so challenging for us to want to be something else. It's so easy for us to want to look at TV and to be wanting to be like a star on TV, or maybe wanting to be rich, or maybe wanting to be powerful, maybe wanting to be beautiful and handsome. And so we spend most of our lives trying to do that, or even getting a car, or getting a house, or getting a woman, or getting the money, or whatever it is that the people want us to buy into. And so we spend our lives trying to be something that others have constructed for us. And in that process, we lose our very self, and we lose the very power and the gift that God gives us. And so sometimes we have to go through tragic experiences. We have to be broken. We have to be hurt. We have to feel lost. This is one of the stories that gets repeated again in Luke 15 with the prodigal son. Do you remember him, the young one? He wanted to go out and test the world. He wanted to sow his oats. And so his father gave him half the inheritance, and he goes out and he tries everything, spends the money on everything. And then one day when he has no more money, he goes and he works for somebody who's feeding pigs. And while he's feeding the pigs, he comes to himself. And he says in that moment, I have a good father. I have a good home. I have much food to eat there. Why in the world did I leave? And he goes back. See, coming to ourselves is perhaps the greatest realization that we can find in our lives. For most of our times, we're not in our body. We're somewhere else. We're doing a job. We're doing a task. We're fulfilling a expectation, and we're never really there. But there are often moments in when you are there, and when you are within yourself, and you are yourself, that you experience the absolute beauty of being and the wonder of being who you are. And that's the gift that God is giving us. You know, we can go and get destroyed in many ways and have relationships that hurt us, and we do jobs that, throw us away because we're not good enough, or we may not pass all the grades in school. But the question is still that you are someone inside that has to be recognized and has to be lifted up. And when you do that, you find a certain confidence and a certain power, a certain connectedness within yourself, that life then feels good, that you feel as though you're on the right track, that you're on the right path, that the people that you begin to associate honor and affirm who you are, not take away from who you are, not make you something else that you're not, but keep repeating to yourself in a very social way that you are something very special. And there's no replacement in the life for you. When God made you the specific individual with the visions, the values, the ethics, the morals, and everything that you have, with the mistakes that you have, and with the desire to be everything inside you already. And the greatest gift of life is to realize, to come to fruition, to emerge out of the questions of what it is that I am to the reality of who you are. That's the wonder of the gospel, that God gives us back ourselves. And we realize that through service of others. Now, she gave service, Peter's mother-in-law, and I wish they had a name for her. She goes back and she starts to serve. Why? Because it was in her genes to serve. It is in her heart to serve. It's in her soul to serve. To be a servant of God is perhaps the greatest calling we can ever have. The angels that helped Jesus after the temptation in the desert, they came, what did they do? They served Jesus. And what did Jesus come to do? He didn't come to be served. He came to serve. So Jesus is emulating a way in which God wants us to be to each other and with each other, to serve, to love, to support, to promote, to heal. And in that process, we come back to ourselves. And then when we come back to ourselves, and we can genuinely love, genuinely have a relationship, genuinely be together with each other. I'm sure you've experienced that when you're with someone who seems to be bifurcated, someone who says something in their life or a contradiction to it, someone who speaks of high values and they're lost in their own world, someone who takes pride in how they look, but their life is a mess. Their internal life, their psychology, their emotions are so erratic and so lost because they're not connected to the self. The self is the one that has a relationship with God. And why would God not want you to be yourself to have a relationship with you? Why would God want to be invested in a relationship with you if you're acting another part, if you're pretending to be someone else? if you're pretending to be what is fashionable in the world, to wear the clothing that everybody is wearing, to speak the lingo that everybody is wearing, and not be you. The greatest strength that you can have is to be you. Because when you speak, then you speak with authority. Remember a couple of weeks ago that we read that Jesus was in the synagogue and he spoke with one who had authority. And the people were saying, wow, he speaks with authority. He wasn't talking from his head. He wasn't talking tradition. He wasn't talking what philosophical ideas were current in his day. He was talking from who he was, from where he stood, from the reality that he could claim as his own, from the witness that he gave to the world. He spoke out of that with authority and power, which is what you can do. It's what you must do in your life. Otherwise, your life is not yours. Your life belongs to someone else. Your life is written off by a set of ideas that someone else has created. So Jesus took her by the hand and she came to herself. That's a whole different orientation. And we may say she came to serve. Well, yes, she came to serve. That is the greatest call that we can have for each other. Rather than lord it over people, rather than be powerful over people, to serve with people, to stand with them, to walk and witness with them, that is the power with the people. And this is what witnessing in the Christian faith means, that you stand with people where they are, not you make them something they're not, or not you tell them that you should be someone else, but you see them for who they are and you honor them for that, and you love them for that, and you lift them up for that, and you stand and witness with them for it. So that's the message I get out of the reading today. At first I was saying, oh my God, she just got up and after all of this being sick, she's just going to make coffee? She's going to make lunch? And that's it? Did you know that Peter had a mother-in-law? I always get a kick out of reading it. I said, Peter has a mother-in-law? He was even married, wasn't he? We never hear about his wife. What? Why not? And the mother-in-law that has a name, no name for mother-in-law. And you say, why not? But she comes to herself and she serves the people in her house. Wouldn't it be great if we came to ourselves? That we found that we are now back in our bodies, back in our heart, back in our soul, back in our mind, and that from there we can give witness to the beauty of being, that we can experience the wonder of being alive and to see the beauty that surrounds us all everywhere. That's only when you can do that. And we capture that once in a while. Do you ever get involved in a hobby or something, and before you know it, hours just pass by, and you're so involved, and you feel so connected, and you feel so alive. You feel in the process of being. That's because you're connected to yourself. You're connected to where you are. And maybe some people who have been wounded, people who have suffered terrible things through wars and victimization and abuse, the greatest thing is to come back to being who they are. Come back to discover the genuine person that they always were. And then we can celebrate life. And then we can begin again. So Jesus heals this woman, and she comes back to herself. Have you come back to yourself? Do you know who you are? It sounds kind of 1960s, the psychologists, be who you are, that kind of stuff. But really, do you know where you are? Do you know who you are? Do you know whose you are? Do you speak from your center? Do you speak out of your heart? Do you speak with your own eyes? Do you live with your own flesh? Many times we don't. This is what the gospel is asking us to come back, to be incarnated again, just like Christ is incarnated, to be in touch with the flesh and the reality of life. So let God take your hand this week and then say to yourself, what am I doing here? And wake up to the miracle of being who you are, to the joy of all you can offer to others, to the grand gift that you bring to all of us in your life and in your being. Amen.